Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all 3 past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Hi everyone, Ashley Mailloux and Mike Beer here with the daily racing form. The late pick 3 this Saturday at Aqueduct gets kicked off in race number 9. It's the Bayshore 4 3-year-olds, 7 furlongs on the dirt, and a nice field here in terms of size. We're gonna have 10 runners in here as we look at this slate, Mike, and kind of looking at the morning line. Maxitus Meritus and Proprietary Trade appear both on paper in the morning line to take a lot of respect in this field.
Yeah, I don't have any real argument with the 4 Maximus Meridius being the morning line favorite in here. I just kind of felt like the race was a little bit wide open. I don't know that you necessarily have to, take a short price on anybody in this field, but I'll concede that the 4 and the 7, they seem like the 2 horses who should take money in here.
It's a nice little mix here in terms of the field, too, as we look at this pace projection of horses cutting back in distance or maybe stretching out slightly to 7/8, and projected to be a fast pace here with Proprietary Trade maybe on the front. The 9, Shady World's been pretty much forward in all of his 7 career starts to this point, and horses like Classic Joke and Maximus Meritus might set the trip just off the pace setters. Do you pretty much agree with this?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I'm not sure that when I looked at it, I don't think I automatically thought fast pace come in here. I guess it's certainly possible. Proprietary Trade, he's very lightly raced and he seems like he has some ability, but he did just wire a field break in his maiden, but man, he didn't have to go fast at all that day. I guess he has to go faster here.
We'll note the LP flag attached to the 8 Eliminate for Dylan Davis and Todd Pletcher. This horse might be closing from off the pace. Now we'll kick it off with the number 1, Mission Beach, who's had a couple of starts for Brittany Russell, was able to win in that first start. That was at Laurel late last year, but just seemed to maybe not handle the mud and maybe the 1.125 last time.
Yeah, I guess you're probably not supposed to get too caught up in that most recent performance. So you just judge him off of the sprint starts to begin his career. I don't know. I guess I'll leave it to you, Ashley. What did you think about? I really don't like any of this horse's races. I didn't like his races when Baffert had him. I didn't love his race 2 starts back, although he won first time out for this trainer. And he did it. I like that he did it a different way in there from off the pace, but I'm still not blown away by this horse.
No, I agree with you. I like that the performance at Laurel, he showed a little bit of a different tactic, especially when we think with some of these Bob Baffert former runners. They have a lot of speed into them. I like to see a horse that can sit the trip and has some versatility, but in terms of what he's faced in his 2 wins, I'm not enamored by those performances. He draws the inside in here, and a little concerned that, you look at him, he's kind of moved around a little bit. They've had some high hopes for him, and then they've dropped him. It just seems like he hasn't panned out the way that he should have. So that's the 1, Mission Beach. We'll move on to the 2, Classic Joke, who we will show a replay of, was able to win last time out at Tampa Bay Downs. And I thought, kind of off the bench, switching from Pimlico to Tampa and being able to fire like this again in front-end fashion was a pretty nice performance, a nice stepping stone.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. He got to the lead in this race, and he's pretty game here to hold on. You're going to see Catalytic come running way too late here with a big finish for second. And that horse, of course, came back to run second in the Florida Derby last weekend. So I guess that's a good sign for this horse. I guess the question is, that pace projector that we looked at earlier, if it plays out like that, it's not going to help this horse. 2 wire-to-wire wins in his last 2 starts.
No, and you look at his work tab, too. He is so fast in the mornings that we really haven't seen him in his last 2 right. And I wonder what happens with a horse that's used to having the lead, at least in those last 2. Is he going to get maybe a little bit hot and just geared up behind horses? It's just going to have to show something different. The 3, Yo-Yo Candy, up next here for Danny Velasquez. I don't know what you make out of him. Obviously, he was able to win the Grade 3 Sanford, but his last 2, he's been pretty dull in both.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about him. Even, they put blinkers on in the Sanford, and he just pulls off this crazy upset to win that race. They come back in the hopeful. Listen, the hopeful, he was bad in the hopeful, but everybody was bad in the hopeful. That was a terrible Grade 1 race for 2-year-olds. He was bad again last time. They've laid him up. I guess if nothing else, he's a wild card in here. He does have at least 1 race that gives him a chance in here, and he's going to be a big price.
Yeah, and I guess my concern with him too, they've stretched him out to 7/8 and a mile, and I know we talked about the competition graded versus the quality. To me, as better races are going shorter distances, so there are some concerns maybe even at the 7/8 distance. Now we talked about the 4, Maxitus Meritus. This is a performance, or a horse I should say, that performed okay last time out. We talked kind of offline about deterministic, so impressive in this race, and to kind of take away that margin, a 2-length winner, this horse really wasn't missing the minor placings by much.
Yeah, I mean, he ran fine last time. Again, that's a day where the track was just a mess at Aqueduct. And this horse ran okay, trying the mile for the first time. I actually appreciate that they're going to cut him back here because I really think sprinting is going to be his game. What I like most about him, Ashley, and you can talk about him because I think you maybe like him a little bit more than I do. He just feels like he's getting better every time they send him out there. Really green in his first start, broke really poorly in his second start, but he put it all together. When he won 2 starts back, he had an easy trip in that race, but he put it all together that day. I mean, I think he's the horse to beat. It's just your call how short you want to go on him as far as price.
Yeah, he's 2-1 on the morning line. That's probably the shortest I could go, even maybe a little higher. You'd want 5-2. It is a
Yeah.
big field, and you wonder what's going to happen in terms of the pace perspective. And I agree with you. I think he's just better than he was when he started his career. He's learned a lot, and I think he can sit off of it. I mean, that's the big thing. I don't want a horse that's going to be too far off of it, especially at this distance. I don't necessarily want a horse on the lead, depending on how much pressure there is up front. So I don't mind his performance last time out. I think he ran well. I think he outran his odds. He was 25-1 in there, and he was stretching out in distance. And it was a grade 3 event. The big thing is for me, his buyer went up, and it went up significantly. We're talking a 73 to an 84. So I think that's a step in the right direction. The number 5, Augustine Red for Linda Rice. This is a horse that's been closing in basically every start, and whether this horse finds the winner's circle or not is a different story, but it's been pretty close, especially last time out.
Yeah, it seems like they're getting a little ambitious with him in this race. I kind of understand though maybe what Linda Rice is thinking with this horse, and I'm not going to advocate too hard for him, but I'm going to use him in this race at a big price because first of all, the race is supposed to set up really well for him, and he just kind of wants to sit and make one run. It didn't work out in that most recent start on short rest, no pace in front of him there, but he still made up ground at the end of that race. He he still has no idea what he's doing on the racetrack. He cost himself a win 3 starts back because he just won't run in a straight line. He wants to lug in so badly through the stretch. He was going to win 3 back, but he wouldn't go straight. He tried to lose 2 starts back, but he managed to straighten up in time and win. If he can get a pace in front of him here, get a trip, and then keep a straight line, I feel like maybe he gets a piece of this at a price.
You talk about him having to step up. I think that's true, but if you take a couple of these horses that have had an 80 plus buyer and you draw a line through that number, his figures, at least, they're not that far off the better horses in this field. They're not a lot off. I think my one knock on his last performance is he was a tad closer. He tried to get to Ridgeway Runner and was unable to do so. And I know that horse draws to the outside in here and maybe has some reservations about that, but that's a little bit of a maybe a knock on his chances here. He's 15-1 on the morning line, and Jose Lascano piloted him to that win 2 starts back in the irons. Now, the 6 reason analysis, Chad Brown has a couple of in here. We'll take a look at the replay for this one. For that score last time out, and it was going a mile. They tried him at 6 furlongs. They tried him in a mile and 1/8. They cut him back, and it seemed like this is what he was waiting for.
Yeah, it felt like the right thing to do to go a little shorter. And then maybe he found the right field too. I guess to see. Although I do think this runner-up's pretty good in this race, though. And reasoned analysis is going to deny this horse at the end. I didn't know what to make of him, though, actually, because he got away so easy early in this race. They just let him have the lead on the backstretch. And I just felt like he kind of took advantage a little bit there. I still thought he ran pretty well. And I actually liked him 2 starts back. I was a little surprised that he didn't run better than that when they stretched him out. But maybe that's not what he wants to do. I think he's a contender here. I just don't love him. I'm going to wait and see what kind of price he is.
And honestly, on his debut at 6 furlongs, it wasn't that bad. I'm not saying it was great by any means, but at least he was able to pass some horses and pick up some ground in those final stages. So curious to see what he'll be able to do at the 7/8 distance. Now, his stablemate is to his outside, the number 7 Proprietary Trade. We'll take a look at his performance, and I think you can see it on paper. You can see it in the replay. He's probably the better of the 2 Chad runners here, and he was able to get to the front, but these fractions, obviously, it was 6 furlongs. These are more of sort of the trip that I'd want to see. I think they were okay fractions, not necessarily blistering, but he's going to draw off here pretty nicely in the mud.
Yeah, I like the way he finishes this race for sure. He's another horse I felt like he kind of got away a little bit easy on the lead in this race, but I just like the step forward that he took. I like the way that he finished it off. He wins it really easily. And it kind of feels like he just debuted in a really live race at Gulfstream, and he did not run terribly that day.
You're talking about Beeline, Mr. Skylight, both horses that were able to win in their next outings. The number 8, Eliminate, is up next. This one for Todd Pletcher. Disappointed in the Gotham. That was over the slop. But prior to that, I thought the win at the maiden special weight ranks 6.5 furlongs. It was a good performance. The pace was good enough for him to make a late move, and he might sit the trip in here.
Yeah, he could get the right trip. He's another horse exiting that Gotham Day card. The track was terrible. He was so far back early in there. And then Dylan Davis, for some reason, stayed on the inside, and that's just not where you wanted to be in that race. I feel like you're supposed to be forgiving for his Gotham last time. And maybe the trick with him is he didn't run that well when they stretched him out. And I know he's a Curlin, but maybe it's just a horse who doesn't want to go that far. His debut at Saratoga was good. I mean, they bet him that day. He was bumped a couple of times by Deterministic in the stretch there, and I think it cost him a little bit that day. And when they finally cut him back, 2 starts back to sprint, he ran really well that day. He sat off of it. He came with a big run through the stretch. I think he wants to sprint.
You mentioned Deterministic, who we'll see in the Wood Memorial later in that program. And then in his second career start, they took Play Again, who won Domestic Product. So we know what he was able to do down at Tampa. The number 9, Shady World, is up next. Fresh off the claim this one for $35,000. He's exiting his career best performance, albeit though he was in for a tag, but was able to take them gate to wire under Paco Lopez and just opened up on that field.
Yeah, just dropped him way down in class last time. He got control of the pace that day against 35 claimers, and he made those horses pay. The figure suggests he's a contender in here. He's one of those horses off the claim moving up. You kind of want to see him do it again. It feels like he can't get an easy lead this time.
And then we'll round out the field here with the number 10, Ridgeway, runner out of the Carlos Martin barn. We'll take a look at his performance last time out. He was facing winners for the first time. Same tactics. He got a fast track, though, unlike his maiden score. Tried to take them gate to wire, and it worked out by the narrowest of margins.
Yeah, he's going to hold on. You can see this race is up for grabs here. Right 2 is inside there in the 2-path splitting. That's Augustine Red, who's also back in here. Everybody's kind of got a shot here, but ultimately this pace is just going to hold up because they didn't go fast early. I'm going to give Ridgewood Warner credit here because he digs in and he's really game and he makes it 2 in a row, but I'm not betting him back against this field.
Yeah, you don't often see 6.5 furlongs where the half goes in 48,
Yeah.
and you see 6 furlongs in 114 for a final time of 121. So that's the field of 10 for the Bayshore. And you pointed out earlier, I have a case for Maxidus Meritus. I couldn't see past this horse. I could see maybe a horse or two, but I just think in horses of where they are in their form cycle, how he's been performing. To me, he is the horse to beat in here.
I think he is the horse to beat too. I just didn't really want to short price on anybody in here. So I'm going to try to take shots elsewhere. I'm going to use Eliminate here, turning back, maybe gets back to fast dirt here. I like him sprinting, and I think this race could set up well for him. I saw him 8-1 in the morning line. If he's anywhere around that, he's the horse I'm going to bet. I didn't have enough guts to put the 5 on top, but I put him second.
And we were talking about the 5 earlier. Augustine Red for Linda Rice looks to maybe get the trip and just the trip off the pace with a nice pace setup. So 8-5-7-4 for Mike, 4-7-8-2 for me. It's the Bayshore this Saturday at Aqueduct, race number 9. Good luck.